but there was a 1911 pointed next to my head. And I just kind of looked like to the side and I see this gun and he racks it. And I remember thinking to myself,
You are a rarity. And so I want to know what was your canon event that kind of brought you into this space.
there was a few turning points for me getting into the firearms community. The first one was, you can safely assume where I stood about firearms being in San Francisco most of my life. I didn't have to actually travel, I didn't have to go anywhere. And then, when I moved over to Pensacola, Florida for a little while, I was like, oh, I could build an AR and I can learn about this. And I'm like, but I really don't want to. And I didn't actually really see the need at the time, again, being in San Francisco, where if I called the cops, like they're down the street, literally, and being a Asian woman, just saying like, calling them, they would help, right? And even then, maybe 30 seconds is too late. Some would argue. So, anyways, that said, I my husband at the time wanted a firearm and he was going to get deployed soon, so he just said, hey, you know what, I need to be getting, or I need range time a little bit more. So we ended up buying a pistol, and then also we built an AR, and that's when he taught me basically the gun mechanics. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, if you don't pull the trigger, then it's not going to just automatically explode on you, right? Growing up as a kid, you were thinking like, okay, well, if someone, at least growing up as a kid, when they said, hey, if you see a firearm, talk to an adult. Well, I'm an adult. Like, what do I do with this firearm? Right. So now I felt a little bit more comfortable, but I was like, okay, if we're going to have a fire in the house, then I'm going to have to like maybe go to the range here and there a little bit, I felt like it was a responsibility that I needed to do, especially if I were to start a family. Right. And, and so I went on the range and shooting in isosceles, learning the four safety rules and all that type of stuff. But it really wasn't really my jam. Fast forward 2 years after that, I my husband had a hunting trip that he insisted that I would go to, and the people who know me in life, like I love. There's two things I love in life. Like I love animals, but I also love to eat animals. Don't kill me, PETA or PETA. But like
Listen,
I
I hate to interrupt, but the amount of rabid vegans that I've run into on Instagram recently, just people having a nice plate of like, oh, I'm having some ribs. And people are like, yeah, you would do that to an animal? Would you do that to a person too? I'm just like, chill, give me a break.
I mean, if they're tasty, I'm kidding. I'm
Oh
kidding.
my God. Chill, man.
No, I'm
I
joking.
don't
I'm joking.
know. Okay, I'm gonna let you finish. So
No,
hunting trip.
yeah. So we were at a hunting trip, and and then here's the thing. Like I'm, I was absolutely against. Like I was like, okay, how this hunting trip was for turkey, and I was like, how are we going to use every part of the turkey? Okay, we're gonna make stock with it, sausages for certain parts, and I'm like, okay, fine. We have a deal of like what we're gonna do with the turkey. All right, fine. I'll go on this hunting trip. Being someone who's like an add-on, like I'm the it was my husband's friend, right? I felt really uncomfortable the whole time, but this guy, the guide, who was also like the RSO for us, he was like drinking early on. I'm like, this seems kind of sketchy, but he was fine majority of the time. And then as the night progresses, and actually, we successfully hunted a turkey. I actually, we were getting ready for dinner, and I remember the host, like the host, all went to like the back of the room showering. This guy's like the person's wife actually went to bed a little bit earlier. This was like really late at night, and my husband was like also, getting ready to go to bed. He was also showering in a different room. So I was sitting on the couch and I was on Instagram just because vapid or whatever. Um, and in the corner of my eye, I was on the couch, and on the corner of my eye, the guy had approached me. I didn't realize this, but we were shooting shotguns this whole time prior, but there was a 1911 pointed next to my head. And I just kind of looked like to the side and I see this gun and he racks it. And I remember thinking to myself, like, fuck, I should have said something. And also, I think I'm going to die today. And then he pulls the trigger. Luckily, there's nothing inside. But yeah, I had thought that like my life was going to end that day. So fast forward, got myself out of that situation. And then when I talked to, and this is a sad, shameful part of like, our marriage with my husband. But when I had like talked to him, I said, "Hey, your friend did this thing and you should be pissed." Um, and he's like, "Well, don't tell me how I feel." I'm like, "What?"
Wow.
I just almost, I feel like I almost died. And he goes, "But you didn't die." And I'm like, okay. Like the man that, I had decided to be with decided not to become a protector. Hearing that really broke my heart, which also led to a separation, or one of the reasons why it led to a separation. However, it it really changed my mind and like my framework moving forward of like I am actually my own first responder moving forward. Like I cannot depend on others. I didn't even know what he was doing. Again, I was stupidly on my phone, right? And not being aware of my surroundings. And so like am I supposed to call 911 at that time? Like, oh, by the way, my friends, my husband's friend is pointing a gun to my head. Like, what are they going to do at the time?
Right.
Right. So I do believe it's like the great equalizer. And also it's just like being capable and like learning, being a little bit more self aware of everything that's around you. So then I got into that mentality. And shortly afterwards, I started trying to follow. The gun world is intimidating to start going
Yeah.
through. I think early on when we were talking about like when we first interacted, and I think I randomly followed you back in like May of 2022. And that was actually so what that instance happened around like I think it was like March or April of that year.
Wow.
Coincidentally, circling back, yeah, anyways, I actually launched Training Arena on the day this guy goes to jail for something else. So, a little bit of a
Wow.
vendetta and a little full circle here. So I'm
That's
actually really proud
incredible.
of like this journey that I've gone through. I don't want to give too much credit of this guy
Right.
starting this aspect of my life, but
Well, you had
yeah.
decisions to make, and I hate to interrupt you because you're telling a really powerful story, and I'm super thankful because you could have chose to skip through some of those gory details because it's clearly still difficult to think about and to picture yourself in this place where your life was in the balance. Obviously, this man was drinking a lot, and he's doing extremely dangerous, extremely negligent things, and people have died for
Yeah.
less. And so it hurts me just as a husband to a wife and a father to daughters that your husband didn't respond in a way to at least to understand how you were feeling. And obviously you've had to deal with that with him, and it's not great, but also to consider that, hey, you are faced with some realities. This is a pivotal moment. Like I said earlier, like a canon event. You can go left, you can go right. Are you going to say, guns are traumatizing? I don't want everyone to see a gun again. I'm going to get rid of all my guns. I actually had a family member who had a negligent discharge and got rid of all his guns. He was a former Marine. No one got hurt. He fired in the air. Well, I think no one got hurt. But for you, quite the opposite. You started to
Hmm.
kind of more understand and leverage the power that you had from based on your past experiences to build something to help you or the person like you, right? That's what it seems
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like, well, and that was the start of it.